Hey, this is Jesse Tula from BatchFrame.com, and in this video, I'm going to be going through some of the features of the new version of AutoCrop. AutoCrop is now a native plugin for After Effects, so things run a little bit differently. You'll notice some speed improvements and better accuracy overall. So I'm just going to take you through some of the basic features. First of all, to get to AutoCrop, go to Layer, and all the way down to the bottom here, you'll see AutoCrop. Now, AutoCrop actually has 4 different options: AutoCrop, Crop Duration, Mask Crop, and to open the Preferences window. And you can actually toggle through those by pressing down different keys on the keyboard. So you can see right now, when nothing is pressed, we have AutoCrop. If I hold down Shift, I get AutoCrop Preferences to show up, and I can click that and open up the preferences. If I hold down Control, you'll see AutoCrop Duration. And if I hold down Control and Shift, I'll get Mask Crop, which is currently disabled because I don't have any masks on my layer. Now on a Mac, it's slightly different. You won't be able to open and visually toggle through, but if you hold down the keys before you click on the item, you'll see that change down there, and that's only for Macs. If you don't want to use these different keyboard shortcuts and the layer menu, there's also a Script UI panel that comes along with AutoCrop, and you can use these buttons instead, and they'll do all the same stuff. In the previous version of AutoCrop, you had to always use a pre-comp, and you would crop the pre-comp, and that still works the same way. So let's say I take this composition, put it into a new comp. Now we have our pre-comp. I'm going to go to Layer, AutoCrop, and you can see that the layer is now cropped, and if I go into this composition, you can see the composition itself has been resized. I'm going to undo that. Something that's different in this version of AutoCrop is that you can now actually crop without the layer being a pre-comp at all. So I'm selecting the background of this composition panel. The composition is selected. I hit AutoCrop, and you can see it's cropped this composition without it being a pre-comp. Another thing that's been added is if I bring up a couple more uses of this comp, so I'm just going to create some more panels here. Okay, so you can see all 4 of these compositions are different compositions, but they're all using that same AutoCrop layer. Now in previous versions of AutoCrop, if you were to crop one, it wouldn't adjust all 4, but that's been updated now. So if I select any one of these layers, they're all the same base comp, this oversized comp. If I select this layer here, hit AutoCrop, you can see it's been cropped in all 4 of those compositions, and the position has remained consistent. So every use of your composition that you're cropping will be adjusted, and all of the position attributes will be maintained throughout the entire project. All right, so I'm just going to close some of these windows. All right, so next I just want to show crop duration. Crop duration, it's pretty much the same as it was in the last version of AutoCrop. However, now it works a lot faster and a lot more consistently. So what crop duration does is, let's say we have a composition where there's layers moving around the entire time, and we want to crop this composition to the smallest possible size without ever losing any of the detail. For instance, if I was to stop this right here, select the layer and do a regular auto crop, you can see it's cropped successfully, and we've made it to the smallest possible size for this frame. However, if we keep going through, you can see layers are being cut off because it's been made too small for some of the other frames in the timeline. So I'm going to undo that, and if I hit crop duration, you can see the composition is 30 seconds long. Hit crop duration. So now it's going through, and it's now made this composition as small as it can possibly be to fit all the layers into that composition throughout the entire length of the composition itself. So now as I scrub through, you can see there are points when those layers get right to the edge, but they never get cut off. And one thing to keep in mind when you're using crop duration is that it actually does have to fully render each frame in order to get the 100% accurate results. You can choose different options if you'd like, but in order to get 100% accurate results, it will have to fully render each frame to get the proper values. So just keep that in mind if you're doing something that's a little bit more complex. So the last kind of crop here we have is mask crop. That one's pretty self-explanatory. If I put a mask onto this layer, you can change it to none or whatever, hit mask crop, it's now going to crop that composition to the size of the mask. And if we delete this mask, you can see that layer's been cropped. You can also use mask crop to make compositions larger. For instance, this one's been cropped. If I put a mask on it that's much larger than the size, and I hit mask crop again, it's going to resize that layer to the new size of the mask. So you can see that composition has been expanded. And the last thing I want to go through is just the preferences. You can see just a small set of preferences. Delete mask after mask crop if you want to keep that mask or not. I can show that real quick. Create a mask, hit mask crop, and you can see now the mask has been deleted after that mask crop happens. So that's pretty simple. We have padding, so if you want to add padding to all your crops, you can choose the number of pixels worth of padding you want to add. Include masks. I'll show this real quick. I'll leave the padding on so you can see that as well. And now let's say I put a mask onto this layer And I'm just going to crop out this side. Okay. And now I hit auto crop and I'll get rid of this mask. You can see that the composition has now been sized to both the size of the layers as well as including that mask in that size. If I undo that and I go to preferences again and I uncheck the include masks and I hit auto crop, now when I delete the mask, you can see it actually cropped to the size of the contents, disregarding the mask. And then it's a little difficult to see with this example, but you can also see if I go into the composition that that 10 pixel padding was added there. So the last two are just different options for what you want to do in certain situations. So right now I've been working at full resolution. If I was to change down to, let's say, quarter resolution for whatever reason, you can say I have the always ask option selected right now. When I go to do an auto crop, so because I have always ask selected, I get a choice if I want to go for accurate results or fast results. If you choose accurate results, it's going to change that resolution from quarter to full and then do the crop. If you choose fast, it's going to use whatever the current resolution is, which means that if you do choose fast and then you go to full resolution, you may notice a little bit of inconsistencies as far as how accurate the crop was. Now, if you're just trying to get the layers to be a little bit smaller and you have some padding set, that won't affect anything. But if you have no padding and you do that crop, you might notice a little bit of extra pixels or some pixels being cut off. So it's always best to use the accurate option, but feel free to use the current resolution. You can also choose to always use full res or always use the current res, and then you won't get that pop-up each time you hit auto crop. If you're already at full resolution, it's not going to show you anything because there's nothing that needs to be done. So the last option here is cropping when dealing with 3D layers. So let me show that real quick. If I take all of these layers and I make them 3D, you can see they're not being positioned in 3D space. Let me change the size of this composition just to hold on to more of it. All right. So now if I go back into the parent composition and I hit auto crop, you can see it's saying that I have 3D layers in my composition and would I like to pre-compose them to avoid layer shifting. If I hit no, you're going to see that things moved a little bit, and that's because the size of the composition actually affects how depth is calculated in 3D space. So in order to get an accurately looking composition, I would have to say yes here. And now that crop worked, it's made it as small as possible, but if I go back into that random composition, you can see there's a secondary pre-comp that still has all of those 3D layers at the full size. So you're going to have to choose which one you'd like between the two. Now, there are some times when your layers aren't pushed as far into 3D space, and the original option without pre-composing will work just fine. But for the most part, I'd say with complex 3D scenes, you're going to need to pre-compose them in order for the crop to work properly. That's what that last option does. Once again, if you have an option that you always want to choose, you can select the default, and then it won't ask you each time you use that crop. So that's just a quick overview of how to use the features of auto crop. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to use the contact form at batchframe.com, leave a comment here, or send an email to contact@batchframe.com. But anyways, that's it for this video. I will see you in the next one.